Welcome to the PsychoBiz Impact Podcast, your ultimate business growth platform, where we simplify complex business topics with expert insights, market-relevant trends, and practical advice, all aimed at keeping you ahead of the curve.
Welcome to another episode of the PsychoBiz Impact Podcast Show. I am your host, Luncedo Mthwendwe. This is your home, this is your space where we unpack and simplify complex business topics that affect your business or even your career on a day-to-day basis. As promised, we will be bringing you the experts in the industry just to share some of the latest business trends, provide you with some insights to ensure that you stay ahead of your business curve. And today we will be talking again about a topic that does affect not only employees, but small business owners as well, which is about managing human capital asset. And to help us unpack that and go into detail about it, of what it entails, what is human capital asset in a nutshell, we've got a director from Unconventional CA, Hiten Keshave. Hiten, how are you?
Good, thanks, Lou.
Welcome on board.
Thanks, man. Pleasure to be here, and thanks for having me.
No, that's great. Hiten, let's dive deeper in terms of human capital asset. It is a term that has come up quite a lot lately as a result, I would say as a result of COVID as well. It has had a very huge impact in terms of how do you manage human capital in an organization. And as well, as an SME owner. So to get us started, what do we mean when we talk about human capital?
In a nutshell, human capital is just referring to all your employees in your organization. And when we talk about it as an asset, it's in the context that because this doesn't ever appear on your balance sheet, and most small business owners always just look into the numbers and the finances of it, but they don't realize that there are driving forces behind achieving those numbers ultimately. And that's people.
Yeah.
And that's an asset you actually have to look after. Yeah. So this human capital asset is actually your people in a nutshell, and what they are going through on a day-to-day basis outside of work and even in work, actually.
Yeah.
There could be problems or challenges that they're having, and how are you nurturing so that this asset is growing and not depreciating.
Yeah. So talking about that, I'm trying to be in the position now of a small business owner. Why is human capital so important? Because, as you said, we're all chasing numbers. That's the most important thing. That's what keeps the lights on. Why is it so crucial for businesses?
So if we take a step back before even answering that, the easiest point of call for any business owner would be if you were in the shoes of your employee and you were to be treated the way they are currently being treated by you, how would you feel? Would you actually be wanting to do your job, deliver on the end objectives and the results that you're wanting? Or are you just coming for the paycheck and I'll do my bare minimum, get it over the line, but that's it? Now, as a business owner, this is where the leadership part has to come in, your soft skills, your empathy, and getting more into the heart space, I would say, rather than into the head space that we all often sit in. And especially as business owners out there, we want to drive the top line results and the end profitability. But we forget that there are resources that are actually implementing what we are asking for. Now, if those resources are not happy and are dissatisfied, they're not going to give you your end goal. You're always going to run into potholes or pitfalls and having to fix up things behind them. But if you take that one step back and say, let me actually have some empathy for my staff. Let me get to know them on a little bit personal basis.
Be human about it,
Be human about it. You'll start to see that human connection builds up over time. Look, it's not going to work for all employees. You get
different characters and all of that you're dealing with.
Exactly. And that, to your point, when hiring staff, don't always just hire based on technical capabilities,
Yeah.
One of the key things that people can do, and especially small business owners, have a set of soft questionnaires that get you to understand what drives the motivation of this behavior of the employee. Because if that aligns to your values and your ecosystem internally from a business perspective, culturally, you'll then have people who will drive what results you're wanting.
You know, you've touched a number of 3 points that I'm going to follow up on. You spoke about culture. You spoke about motivation. You spoke about, I think, the importance of hiring right. But let's go back to the first point about, you know, how do you keep your employees motivated? So what are some of the strategies that, as a small business owner, you've got 3 or 4 or 5 people or 10 people or 20 people that you can actually implement to ensure that you keep your staff well motivated and committed to the business?
Various strategies that can be done, but in a simplified form.
Yeah.
I would always recommend to small business owners who have this small pool of staff, have at least quarterly one-on-one engagements to understand what are the staff's development needs. So what we do in our business when we have our small pool of staff, we speak to them quarterly. Where do you wanting to go? What's your personal goals? What are your objectives that you're wanting to achieve? And am I then able to fulfill that need? Or if not, I make it then clear. Give me something else that I can do for you. Or I'll table, these are the things I can actually do that are substitutes to that. By that way, you're creating a two-way flow. Because if you look at performance management in a nutshell, right? Yeah. Performance management is all about driving top-line results. But there's an element of, if you reverse performance management into an employee's shoes, if I'm to perform, I also want something. And these are my things that I want. Now,
you need to meet each other halfway now. Yeah.
There we go. If you meet each other halfway in that regard, you then create that balance.
Yeah.
And that can be, some employees actually want 13 checks. They want bonuses. Others actually say, you give me a Friday off once a month, I'm happy with it. You give me some flexible working hours when needed if I have emergencies.
Yeah.
Gives me a world of comfort so that I can look after a family and that. So it varies by employee, and that's why if you get to know your staff and what drives them, then you can adjust and mediate accordingly.
Now, and again, that talks to, the moment you do that, that talks to the culture, because you are creating now a culture of, it's not only just money, but the other factors as well that are involved in the process. So let's talk about culture, you know, as a small business owner guy. How do you build a culture that is conducive to build, you know, environment where human capital is well managed? What are some of the key pointers or key principles that you need to implement as a SME owner?
So the first one I would say is have a value system in place.
Yeah.
Make sure that, and for every small business owner, because you are the forefront of it, this is your baby that you're looking after. All your staff that work for you need to be aligned to that value system, because if there's no alignment, you're not going to get the end result and objective. And then the second one is have a manifesto.
What do you mean by that?
So what is the purpose for existence of this business?
Sure.
When you have that purpose, you will get staff who either buy into it and say, we actually see a bigger picture behind it. You've just mentioned that it's beyond just money at times. And that's what a manifesto is, because every business has a reason for existence. At UCA, as an example, we're here to help resolve socioeconomic issues around small businesses, to eradicate poverty, inequality, and socioeconomic challenges in this country. Not everyone is up for that, because it's social impact and change. But the staff that come and work for us ultimately are aligned by what we are doing. Money is not first. SMMEs are at our heart in terms of development. And that's how you get buy-in from people to say they're in it for the long run. And then you can incorporate into that the softer elements. Do you want to create some flexibility around work hours and that? So at the same time, as the business owner, put yourself in the shoes. If you were to work in this business alone, how would you want to be treated? So that's how I'd say look at it.
Now that's quite interesting. You're talking about, look, the number of businesses, of course, that you work with. Are there some of the examples that you can share with us? Some of the clients or the entities that you've worked with, you've consulted with, that have invested heavily on human capital, and they were able to reap some rewards in terms of all of that employee engagement, creating a work environment that is to the T, where they've reaped rewards in terms of growth and profitability.
So one example, and I won't name any by name,
Yeah.
they're in the vehicle industry
Yeah.
sector. They started off just as a wrapping vehicle. They just did vinyl wrapping for vehicles.
Okay.
One-man business. Today, the guy employs 10 employees after 2 years. He's in dealerships with all the big brands, and he's now getting into the OEMs as well. And now he's providing paint protection film outside of it. He's broadened his business from just being into vinyl wrapping, now into paint protection film, into windscreen filming, and he's provided a diverse ecosystem. He's got his own setup, own fitment center, and he's now expanding into Durban as well. What he started off was he was the be all and end all. He used to do all the hard work, the wrapping and that.
Yeah.
As his business and demand grew, he built employees, but he had the mindset that he was never going to be the bottleneck. He was going to create a foundation of staff who bought into his vision. And for him, quality is very, very important. If there's one form of bubble on someone's car, he will say to his staff, guys, you have not done your work. You have missed our quality assessment process. Please go back to the drawing board and training. They have thorough processes in place. And that allows the buy-in from the start, but it also gets you from an end objective perspective, what you're trying to deliver to your clientele. And so those are what can allow you to move from being a business operator to a business owner. If you look after your staff then in essence become your foundation that you can rely on to allow you to then focus on growing your business rather than working in the business.
That's quite fascinating, because that transition or that journey, it's not easy. It's not easy when you started the business from scratch. And again, it goes to the power of investing on people, right? Now, what are some of the potential consequences of under-investing on your human capital as a small business owner? Because the moment you do that, as you said, if you invest on it heavily, in 5 years' time, you can run the business. The business can run without you. But if you don't, you're going to be involved in business for like 20, 30 years because you're doing everything by yourself. So what are the consequences that you're picking up by underinvesting?
So in order to identify the consequences by underinvesting, every business owner should ask, if I am to invest in my human capital, what is my end objective in the next 2 to 3 years that I'm trying to aim for my business? Where do I see my business going? And how do I see my role as a business owner evolve within this business? If I'm still inundated and doing day-to-day operational work and I have all the staff underneath me who are unable to execute, that means that it hasn't paid off. But if I'm now more in a versatile role and able to focus more strategically and growing my business in the face of business development itself, then it's definitely worked, because I've got a reliable force to say, client X comes to me, I pick up the phone, employee A, please, I have this address, these are the items, you know the drawing board, you've got the processes that need to be followed, this is the due deadline, done. I can continue go out and hunting. So it's like that mode. Do you want to still be in farming mode or are you in hunting mode? That's how you have to think of it as a business owner from an end objective perspective. Some people are comfortable being in farming mode forever. But then I say you're probably sitting in the solopreneur type of environment. And it's not for everyone to actually have a fully fledged business. But if you have the ambitions and the growth to have an established business and you're wanting to be a brand out there, then you have to invest in people in the long run, because otherwise you're always going to be at the forefront of your clients calling you to get things done, and they're always going to say this needs to be done by you, and you're never going to be able to.
And that's not sustainable. I mean, you can't build a business that only depends on you. You need to have those support structures so that if you're not around, the ship still goes on. All right. Now let's talk about a startup. So Hiten, in terms of your startups that are out there, their biggest challenge has always been the ability to have resources and to train or to even have more time. So they'll tell you that we don't have budget to send our employees for training, so that's why it's taking longer for me to become a proper fully fledged business, or else I don't have time to train people because everything is still within me. So what is your advice to a startup or an SME that is out there in terms of nurturing their employees going forward?
So when it comes to nurturing existing employees going forward, you don't have to, when it comes to investing that time to train, it doesn't have to be a whole week every month. It's just identifying what skill sets you desire from your workforce and how can you create a structure and foundation in place internally using systems and processes, whatever that might be that you use in your business, so that there's a central library point. Think about it as a library management system internally in your business that's got this manual and processes and procedures that your workforce can go through and read and say, let me practically apply this and see if it works. If it doesn't, can you please review and give me feedback? And that if you do on a consistent basis, even if it's 2-3 hours a week, think about it. We've got 24 hours a day. If you can invest 2-3 hours, 24 times 7, is 144 hours.
It's a build-up.
Yeah,
it's a build-up,
So start slowly and just transfer all those skills that sit in your mind and your head, your hands, to your employees slowly, so that they can then, when an opportunity arises, try and practically apply it and you just review to see if the quality is still the same. If it's not the same, give them what the next steps are to ensure that the next final product meets your requirements.
SOPs again, that's where they become very important now, your standard operating procedures out there. Now, talking about employees, we are in an era where there's remote working. And what I was reading, I picked up, especially in the first world countries, some of the CEOs of big companies, they're starting to be against remote working. And that is something that employees want. That's what I know for sure. They want to work from home. However, the CEOs or the business owners themselves, they're starting to speak out that they are against employees working from home. So what are the trends that you are picking up around that? And as a business owner who has 5 employees, 6 employees, and they want to work from home, what do you do?
My first of all advice and recommendation is if you have a workforce that has been working together for a few years, at least 2 years. They know each other well personally and they understand each other's roles and responsibilities in the organization. Remote workforce then is a lot more easier because there's an understanding, there's a system, there's processes, there's SOPs in place. And they understand how to execute regardless of where they are. If it's new workforce that you're bringing in and no one knows each other and they're playing vital, critical roles, I would always recommend that for the first 3 months, all staff are together in the office because it gets the unity together. People understand their roles, their responsibilities, who does what when, especially if a new project comes in. What's the rollout that needs to be done? Who's responsible for when and where? And that then creates that synchronicity. Only once there's synchronicity, then you can say to staff, right, you guys work remotely, hybrid, because now I can see you able to do it. So when I bring you something, you all know from A to Z what needs to get done. I don't need to be sitting and overwatching something.
Another point there, that's very important that you mentioned. Another point that is important, Hiten, will be people would expect that human capital, managing human capital is the role of human resource department. Is that the case? If not, why?
In a big corporate, certainly you need to have a dedicated division or resource to look after it because you're going to have thousands of employees underneath you. Now, for a CEO to go and individually with 1,000 resources address each and every pain point and concern whilst also growing a business, it's not very easy. We have to be realistic. For a smaller business who's got 5 to 10 staff, even 20 staff, you can still do that. It's your role as a leader, because in small businesses, culture and unity, people often look at the leadership first to say, the leadership are doing this, why should I be doing that then? And if the leadership don't set the right benchmark, people are just going to go astray.
That's where values as well kick in, as you have said earlier on, right?
Yeah, the value systems are crucial. So for smaller businesses, certainly the role, I think, lies predominantly with the CEO. But if there are technical matters that require addressing from an HR perspective, you can hire outsourced HR specialists to handle certain things that may require potential mediation from a labor law perspective itself. There's various entities that you could just outsource that to, and it's a variable cost for you. So it's something you manage.
Yeah. So what are some of the key takeaways that you'd leave with our listeners and viewers around the importance of human capital to ensure that at least, it adds value into your company and it leads to the sustainability of your company in the long run? Just to summarize it, just your top 3 or top 5.
In a nutshell, what I would ask every small business owner to think of, human capital, think of it as an intangible asset that is not reflected on your balance sheet. If you don't have that intangible asset, there's no cog that's essentially going to be driving your top line revenue, and your profitability ultimately is just going to decline. That is that in a nutshell. Consider, I'd say to every small business owner, read soft skilled leadership books.
Read. I like that point.
Invest in that.
Yeah.
That's very cost effective and an easy way to handle human capital, just by reading leadership books. And the third thing is implement some form of informal performance management system. It doesn't have to be formalized with fancy bells and whistles. You can do it informally with your staff. Dedicate at least once a quarter to your staff, where you formally get to understand what's going on from their side and from a business side. And that will help you gain insights as to how you evolve and pivot your business in the long run.
That becomes less administrative as well when you're running a business, because you don't want to be getting so many resources or softwares that are complicated in terms of your KPIs and all of that. It's a matter of knowing where we are going as a company. Let's talk about UCA. Tell us about what you guys do and what services are you offering out there to the SMEs that are watching.
So UCA, in a nutshell, is a venture building firm that focuses on the development and of scalable and sustainable SMMEs with the main objective of resolving socioeconomic issues, which is around unemployment, inequality and poverty in our country. The main objective is to have these SMMEs have a business that is scalable, a product or a service that is reliable and cost effective, that can filter back into the supply chain of corporates. So we do a lot of work with corporates on the enterprise and supplier development perspective.
SD,
But with the main objective that these SMMEs get an opportunity with the corporate without the corporate having the headache to worry about whether there's risks or defaults in quality of product or service that's going to be provided, but at the same time helping resolve the social issues that this country is facing as an emerging economy.
Yeah. Where are you based?
We're based in Midrand.
Yeah.
So offices are between Spaces and Midrand Business Park, but our work is done countrywide. We work throughout the country.
Okay. Even in Africa as well, right?
Yeah, getting into the African ecosystem now. So we at the moment in discussions with Tanzania, Kenya, and then in Dubai as well to start helping the startup ecosystems there.
That's great. Hiten, you spoke about startups and small businesses as well when they're still starting. And we know that most of them, they have an issue of resources being limited. So how can the startup actually build and nurture their human capital effectively with limited resources?
So the building part of the human capital, if you don't have financial budget to employ staff. There are many placement agencies out there that are able to deploy you internships in various sectors, from finance, marketing, IT, general skilled labor itself. So you're able to take that opportunity to have these staff in your business at no cost to you, because they sponsored individuals. And this is a form of building human capital and also contributing back to society and helping individuals who are trying to get a job but corporates are unable to provide them, for an SMME now to plug in and take that opportunity. As a leader yourself, it's very, very important as a small business owner to then make sure you invest in this opportunity that's been given to you, because you have to be mindful that the staff are unlikely to have any work experience, but you're receiving them at no cost. So it's a trade-off that you make. So without the financial burden, are you then willing to put in some of your own time to upskill this individual as part of their nurturing process and development journey itself? And that you entail and do through thoroughly, I would say at least quarterly with staff, so that you're on the ball with what is required from a development perspective through that journey that you have them in.
Yeah. I mean, there are two questions I'm going to follow up with that. One is, as an SME owner, all of these opportunities or, these platforms where I can leverage on and have my people being trained for free or get free internships, as you are talking about, where do I find those platforms? Where do I go? Is it just about reading? Where do I go to get all of that information? And again, you just spoke about the point about performance management now. And I just want you as well just to dive deeper about performance management when you are a small business owner. It appears as if it is a process that requires so many people to be involved in the process, your HR and all of these people. And how do you implement that now as a small business owner?
So to your first question, where do we find these resources itself? All the SMMEs watching this, happy to reach out to us at Unconventional CA, and we'll put them in touch with our affiliate partners that we have who deploy these resources into their businesses.
All right. Yeah.
And then to the second point, that whole performance management system and implementation of it doesn't require dedicated resources or a dedicated HR division itself. What we do at UCA to help entrepreneurs and SMMEs from a development perspective is diagnose each function within their business, and that we do through our technology and online tool, and it'll clearly articulate for you what are the areas that require attention within your business. And from that, we allocate a dedicated business coach to help devise strategies for implementation to close those gaps. And in that performance management aspect, we've got all the tools and the functionalities. I studied performance management in my master's actually, and I did my thesis on it. So this is where the knowledge and the basis came from. And I know that you're able to implement performance management systems without having to have fully fledged teams and HR divisions involved in it. So we've got the resources to help SMMEs who are struggling with this, and they're welcome to reach out to us.
Talking about that, someone would expect that the whole human capital asset management part is something that will lie within the HR department. And as a CA, what value can you play to assist SMEs to leverage on that and get more value and even extract value from you as a CA? So
from a performance management system perspective, like I said, I've studied performance management in my master's. And when I did my master's, there's a personal story that comes through to this. It was very deliberate at the time when I was asked what topic you want to write your thesis on. And I thought about it and I said, I can write on finance and all these nice things, but at the end of the day, if I don't have a driving team who will execute my vision and my ideas, I'm not going to get anywhere. So I need to understand what are the softer elements that are required to implement and put in place so that my end goal is still achievable without me only being the one running alone. It's like they say, if you want to get somewhere far, you run together. If you want to get somewhere quickly, you go alone. So it depends what your objectives and your intentions are. And as CAs, I think this is very important for many CAs to understand that we get bucketed into this number crunching role. But we don't realize that there is this human element to all of us.
It's not only the numbers.
It's not only the
It's more
numbers.
than that. Yeah.
Yeah, so to that, all SMMEs that are struggling, we've got the systems and we've got some processes that we can help deploy into their businesses. They're welcome to reach out to us, and we'll gladly share that with them.
I think that is a clear testament that it's not only about the numbers, but numbers are secondary to the CAs out there. It's been good. I hope our listeners have gotten very good nuggets. I think there's a very important point that you mentioned. As a small business owner, read the leadership book, because that's what empowers you in terms of how do you deal with people, how do you nurture that capital, how do you grow that company. So we've come to an end of our show, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you have learned some lessons that you're gonna implement in your business going forward. So let us know what you thought about this episode. And don't forget to follow Saika on LinkedIn, on Twitter, and Instagram. Don't forget to share as well this content with people that they might benefit from it. Managing people is not an easy skill for anyone. It takes number of psychology principles that you need to be aware of. And subscribe and like our page as well. That's it from me, Ulunqedo Mthwendwe. See you on the next one.
The PsychoBiz Impact Podcast is proudly brought to you by Psycha, committed to growing impactful businesses in collaboration with our Psycha accredited practitioners. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast and visit our website for more valuable resources.